Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw, and I'm here with Christopher Prelog of Windstar Cruises. And Christopher was just named uh, president of Windstar. And we're going to talk with him about that. We've talked with him in the past before this promotion. And now we're going to talk to him about Windstar and its future now and where we're headed. And this is Insider Travel Report. Now, Chris, first of all, congratulations on being named president of Windstar.
Thank you, James. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think I've now interviewed, this will be our third time we've interviewed together, and you just keep going up the ladder.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been quite an interesting journey, especially the last few years were very interesting.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the sort of the experience and posts in your career that have kind of prepared you for this new role of your sort of many years in cruising and hospitality. What were those?
Well, it's for this post, it's really all of it, right? It's the sum of the individual parts, all the various positions I've held, from frontline guest service focused positions to really spending a lot of time in purchasing and developing products, and now having spent quite some time with team on marine operations and technical operations. So it all sort of helps together to get a sort of overarching view of the business and the industry.
Well, in fact, you started really pretty much as a waiter and then a head waiter on Seabourn many years ago. Did you ever think that someday you would be running a major cruise band like Windstar? Was this your dream?
No, not at all, actually. It was quite the contrary in the beginning, because when you join a cruise ship for the very first time, coming out of hotel school and doing some land-based hotel work, joining a ship is a very, very different experience, and it takes some adjustments and getting used to. And in the beginning, I think I speak for many, many others to say in the beginning, it's not easy. And but there is this feel of camaraderie and all the teamwork, which eventually captures you, and that what makes this industry makes it really great. And I think that what caught me, and and that's over 20 years ago now.
Wow! But you went up the ladder, and you did some training and educational coursework as well. And and I remember the first time I met you was on board Windstar out in Asia Pacific, and we were actually sailing off somewhere in the Philippines somewhere, and interviewed you there, and when you were kind of sort of head of the operations team. Now, what mission have you been given by your parent company, Xanterra, in terms of running and growing the Windstar brand?
Really, the mission is really to build on the strong foundation we have internally, but also externally. Internally, the great communication, the collaboration, and the teamwork between our teams here in Seattle and our parent company, Xanterra in Denver. And that really is, internally speaking, certainly a guideline we want to follow through on and want to build upon because we've got great teams in Denver as well as in Seattle. And for the Windstar brand, it's really the continued focus and the continued position of being the leader in small ship cruising. Mm-hmm. And our small yachts are really built for that and really supporting that, whether you're on a sail ship or on a motor ship. They're just really good in this segment.
No, and I've cruised on your ships, and you're absolutely right. They're really, you have a kind of unique positioning. Well, we'll talk about that in a little later. Now, what's now right now the status of Windstar's return to cruising? When do you expect to get your ships back in the water, and where will you cruise first? And we're speaking actually literally just a couple of days before the CDC is set to either end its no sail order or extend it. We'll see what happens. Yeah. And a lot of people are kind of sitting on pins and needles trying to figure out what happens. Now, if it happens, they don't extend it, and CLIA itself has sort of done a voluntary pause until the end of October. And I believe you are also. And so tell me, where is Windstar now in terms of when it's going to get back to sailing?
Yeah, so we are having the fleet out of service at the moment for the rest of the year. And as you know, we are obviously involved in stretching 3 of our ships. So there are 2 ships already in a dry docking anyway situation. We've made the announcement recently to not sail this year, and we are aiming on bringing the fleet back gradually next year. Mm-hmm. We are, just as you, waiting anxiously of what the position of the CDC is, and the industry as a whole. I think there's some really good signs on. There are several operators operating worldwide, and that's great to see, because the industry has to come back and will come back really strong. So I'm really curious as to what happens over the next 2 days so that we can build our plans around it. Mm-hmm. Now, being out of service doesn't mean we're just waiting and seeing. We're really building a lot of plans for the post-pandemic operation again for our fleet. And that's really where we spend most of our time on building those plans, in addition to, of course, where we are doing our Star Plus initiative, where our 3 motor ships go through a fairly large extension and upgrades to, all the systems on board.
Yeah, no, well, actually, tell us a little bit remind us about the Star Plus initiative. It's a $250 million effort to kind of stretch Star Breeze, Star Pride, Star Legend. I even think one of those ships you probably started sailing on when you were a waiter.
Yes.
So now you're stretching that ship, hopefully making bigger accommodations for the waiters, right?
Yeah, exactly. So new ones.
But tell us about exactly what the stretch is going to do to those ships again, because it actually has been about 6 months plus that we've even discussed this. So
exactly. So of course, Italy, as you know, was as hard hit as any other country, and pretty much in the onset. But activities are really going on now on the Star Breeze and Star Legend. The shipyard is in full operation, and they're doing an excellent job of finishing up Breeze. We're expecting her to be delivered to us within a month and then be done. And the Star Legend is already there as well, and she's in the dry dock, and the new section is actually already fitted and is being welded together. So very good progress on the Star Legend as well. And really, our Star Plus initiative is really to offer more variety to our guests. So we're going to have a beautiful, much larger spa. We're going to have a very nice new pool and pool area, an open deck. We will have 2 new restaurants, a Star Grill by Stephen Reichland, and then we have a Quattro 44, which is a specialty restaurant, Spanish themed by Anthony Sasso. And then we have a new Amphora restaurant, which is our main restaurant. And then we have, of course, 50 new suites added to the ship as well. So there's a lot of enhancements made to those beautiful and legendary motor yachts, and they're going to look awesome when they come out.
Well, we're looking forward to it. I was with you on one of those ships out a couple of years back, and back then you had some. I was surprised at how good the food was, and even before you had these restaurants, and I think you were really focusing on that, and that was what part of your responsibility. So I'm sure we can look forward to having even better culinary options on board with this new Star Plus initiative. So now, what obviously in this age of COVID, we're all focused on new health and safety protocols, and I know Windstar has put out what you will implement, but let's talk a little bit about those that you'll have to you have in place or will be putting in place as you return to cruising.
Yeah, so we have been working really a lot on the Beyond Ordinary Care program, as we call it. This is our post-COVID-19 operations plan, and it's really like resting on 6 pillars, and it's addressing everything pre-cruise. It's also going into how we're going to do embarkations staggered and testing of guests, and how we embark guests on board. And then really the one core element is enhanced sanitation. How is this going to work on board? What are the sanitation protocols in place? Use of sprayers and what have you. And then, of course, it is a modified guest experience as we start up. capacity limits in restaurants or in the gym or in areas. So all these things are being relooked at it. And we're also making incredible investments into infrastructure on board. We are updating our HVAC systems with HEPA filtration, and we are adding UVC lighting to our HVAC system so that really viruses get killed in our HVAC system. So that's a big investment. We're upping our medical personnel, and we deal with all those elements at the moment, and we're reviewing it constantly because the laws and regulations around how we operate post COVID are going to change, but they are not yet certain either, because certain things are going to be developed over the next few weeks and months to come.
Now, beyond the health and safety protocols, things like that, how do you think the whole COVID-19 crisis has changed Windstar, possibly fundamentally, in terms of how you will operate in the future?
Well, I think COVID-19 has changed travel, right? I mean, it's the whole travel and tourism industry is changing, and everyone, whether it's a tourist or a guest, is changing, but every operation is changing too. I mean, today going on an airplane is very different than probably 6 to 8 months ago. And I think cruising is going to be similar. It will be different. Cruising always had a very high health and safety standard and is already really poised to do really well in this environment post-COVID-19. So it will be different, and it will be a focus, of course, but it will be very much in line with previous protocols were and its enhancement post-COVID-19.
Now, obviously, you've been not been operating for most of this year. One time we thought you were going to start operating in Tahiti, but then you said we're not going to do anything till 21. What are some of the destinations and cruises that you are going to add to your schedule for 2021, and how has that schedule been changed because of COVID-19?
Well, in a nutshell, James, it's really bringing the ships closer to home. It's focusing on the Caribbean, focusing on obviously our Alaska program and our West Coast program. But we're also putting, because we are sending the Wind Spirit to Asia for her next scheduled dry docking at the end of the year. So we're putting the Breeze into Tahiti to run the cruises there, because we have got a loyal following in Tahiti. And so we can get our guests on board the Star Breeze while Wind Spirit is out for her dry docking period. So we're doing a little bit of that, and that's sort of what changed for us in 2021.
Well, that's interesting, because this will be the first time you had not one of your sort of yacht, the motorized yachts, Star Breeze, where usually you've had the sailing yachts in Tahiti. I know, and that's where people have remembered. But this will be an interesting experience. It's going to be a bigger ship with a lot more facilities, I would assume.
Yeah, and it's really also true that we're working obviously close with every local authority, but we have very good relationships with French Polynesia and Tahiti in particular. And, they've been telling us, why don't you put a bigger ship there? You should bring a second ship here, because Windstar is so great and so on. So we're finally addressing that call, and we'll see how it goes, but we're pretty positive about it.
Absolutely. Well, you only have, as far as I know, you only have one other competitor out there in that market for exclusive cruises of the French Polynesian Islands, and having done it a couple times, I think there's room in the market for a couple more ships. So hopefully you'll see that eventually. Now, let's talk. We talked a little bit about how you're positioning Windstar, and I always have a challenge because you are kind of small ship premium, small ship luxury. You're you're very unique in many ways. There's to use an overused word. Where do you put Windstar in terms of the category? What are you, and who do you view as your kind of major competitors, if any?
Yeah, Windstar is really a great niche product, and we're calling ourselves casual luxury. It's a very casual product, but it's also a very high-end product. I mean, you get great food, you get a great tour program, you've got great services on board. So it's entry-level luxury to us, casual, and I think we're comparing us often with river cruisers and other small ship operators. I think, but because we have free sailing ships, they're really very, very unique. There, you have a lot of outdoor space. You have the sails. You have a very different experience. We're also seeing, saying we're a very niche product here at Windstar.
No, it is. It really is an interesting positioning, and again, you are, as you said, casual luxury, and I think the food is superb. And now you're going to have a bigger spa on eventually on three of your vessels. So that's and more suites. So that's going to be another plus. I think there people are going to be very surprised. I mean, all three of the motorized yachts, they began as part of Seabourn, and they were all considered luxury back then. So I think in your case, it still is. It should be.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And, we also upgraded our spa on the Windsurf, which is a beautiful space now in this last dry dock. And unfortunately, we weren't able to operate it for very long because then COVID came on. But we've put some emphasis on there as well. And so I think it works really out very well.
Now, is there anything else you want to let our travel advisors, viewers out there know about Windstar right now and your new role overseeing the brand?
Well, as I always say, I'm obviously very accessible, and if there are any questions, me and the team are, of course, available to our advisors. Small ship cruising and small yacht cruising is poised to come back really well. We are seeing good booking momentum. We're seeing also a lot of new to brand guests, not new to cruising, but new to brand. So I think future guests are trying to find smaller yachts, and I think we are really well positioned for that market. And with our enhancements to the infrastructure on board and our COVID-19 plans, when we do come back into operations, it will be a safe environment, it will be a healthy environment, and I think that's what speaks for Windstar.
Well, I know that you have a loyal following of guests and that really love Windstar in all forms and have for many, many years. And in fact, I believe the cruise that we were on out in Asia and the Philippines had a whole lot of those cruisers who were, they grew up with Windstar in a way. And
absolutely.
They've probably missed it for the past few months, right?
And we're getting them to come and book, and so they're just as anxiously waiting for us to come into service as we do. So we also want to do it, but we want to do it safe and in a healthy environment and not rush it.
Well, Chris, first of all, again, congratulations on becoming president of Windstar. You're quite familiar with it, I'm sure, and having even been on some of those ships when it was under another brand. So it's probably great to see. You probably had ideas back then. What am I going to change here? So now you can. Now you can. So again, good luck with this. It's great to talk with you again. This is the second time we've talked during the COVID era, I guess.
Yeah.
But I hope the next time we talk, it might be live. So that would be fun.
Exactly. That would be an objective we should accomplish, talking about then when everyone is back operating.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we'll see you soon. And Chris, again, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you. Thank you, James.
I'm James Schillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.